The words of the legendary investor Warren Buffett. Be fearful when they're greedy, and be greedy when they're fearful. In this quick video, I want to talk to you guys about the Fear and Greed Index and how you can use human emotion, fear and greed, to your advantage as a trader or investor. My name's Royce Jacob, and welcome back to Waves Capital. All right, so first things first, in front of us, we clearly have the Fear and Greed Index and a timeline of the Fear and Greed Index. I do want to get specific about the current levels we're sitting at and how I think the next month or two will unfold as we head into 2024. But first things first, what is the Fear and Greed Index and how is this thing made? Okay, so to do so, let's hear it from the creators of this index themselves. Fear and Greed Index facts. What is the CNN Business Fear and Greed Index? The Fear and Greed Index is a way to gauge stock market movements and whether stocks are fairly priced. The theory is based on the logic that excessive fear tends to drive down share prices and too much greed tends to have the opposite effect. How is the Fear and Greed calculated? The Fear and Greed Index is a compilation of 7 different indicators that measure some aspect of stock market behavior. They are market momentum, stock price strength, stock price breadth, put and call options, junk bond demand, market volatility, and safe haven demand. You can see all those above us. And of course, you guys, you can always just type in Fear and Greed Index and go to cnn.com for yourself, read over this, but we're going to keep this short and sweet for the purposes of this video. Okay, how often is a Fear and Greed Index calculated? Every component and the index are calculated as soon as new data becomes available. Okay, I just realized I didn't read over this part right here. Okay, and safe haven demand. The index tracks how much these individual indicators deviate from their averages compared to how much they normally diverge. The index gives each indicator equal weighting and calculating a score from 0 to 100, with 100 representing maximum greediness and 0 signaling maximum fear. How to use the Fear and Greed Index. The Fear and Greed Index is used to gauge the mood of the market. Many investors are emotional and reactionary, and fear and greed sentiment indicators can alert investors to their own emotions and biases that can influence their decisions. When combined with the fundamentals and other analytical tools, the index can be a helpful way to assess market sentiment. Okay, so I like that last line. As with pretty much every other indicator or data point, you shouldn't trade or invest solely based upon this indicator. I mean, for the long term, it actually might work if you're very bullish on a specific stock or asset. But again, as with every other tool or indicator, this should only be one of the tools in your arsenal or one of the data points that you used in order to factor into your ultimate conclusion. Okay, so that said, that's what the Fear and Greed Index is. Again, you can look over each of these individual data points that compose this index on your own time. But right now, I really want to talk about where we're currently sitting in. It's October 14th, as of the recording of this video. The markets are very fearful. Actually, just under a week ago, we hit a 17. We hit extreme fear territory in the wake of some of the geopolitical issues going on. But I want to reference the timeline here and take a look at what happened at this exact time last year, October 14th, exactly a year ago is when this dates back to, when we were sitting at some levels of extreme fear. And what unfolded over the course of the next 2 weeks, over the latter half of the month of October, was pretty miraculous. Okay? So, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does tend to rhyme. And I do think that, things get pretty exciting for the market. So before I talk about the specifics of what went down, and we go over this chart in real time, talk about what we've done over the past year, I want to reference the newsletter that I sent out on Friday. Okay? As always, send these buggers out every single day, talking about my trades, talking about everything. Friday the 13th, it was a rough day in the markets, funny enough. But I did share the Fear and Greed Index here on this. And again, you guys, if you do want my daily newsletters, here's an example of, actually here, this is a great example from October 3rd, when we were this is perfect. When we were in extreme fear territory, I shared that. And we did see a little bounce, but we are going back and forth, which is, of course, natural. But we have been tracking this again. This can be a very powerful tool in your toolkit as a trader or investor, especially during times when we're on the polarized ends of the spectrum. Extreme fear, typically a good time to buy. Okay. So again, we'll talk about specifics. We'll talk about where we're going from here. But if you guys want these daily newsletters, write 2 of these every single day, going over charts, going over my trades. And of course, with this, you do receive a complete breakdown of my entire personal portfolio as well. That's going to be the first link in the description. Complete portfolio daily newsletter. This past couple of weeks have been rough for sure. The month of September was rough as well. That's not surprising. September is historically a pretty terrible month for the market. It's one of the worst actually. But I do think things will turn around. I have some data right here to back that up that we're about to talk about. But I remain bullish on the markets. I'm excited about the weeks ahead of us. I'm excited about the holiday season. And if you guys want to know how I'm trading my personal portfolio through this season, all the call options I have on deck, how I'm altering them, when I'm buying the dips, when I'm selling the rips, first link in the description once again. Choose from any of these pricing plans. Try free for 7 days. If you don't like it, you can always bail out, but I trust you'll stick around. And of course, if you are a member of Waves Capital, I always appreciate your insight in the comments because, maybe prospective members will be looking down there. Okay. Appreciate you guys. If you joined, if not, no worries at all. Let's take a look at what went down just a year ago. Okay. As you can see here, on October 14th of 2022, we were sitting at a 16, which is funny because just a week ago, I referenced up here, I'm not gonna scroll all the way up to the newsletters, but you saw that we were at a 17 just about a week ago. On October 3rd, we were sitting at a 17 on the Fear and Greed Index. That's crazy. But even though we were sitting at a 16 on October 14th of 2022, over the next 2 weeks, by November 1st, by October 31st, Halloween, we were sitting at a 64, all the way back up in levels of greed. And this just goes to show, again, history doesn't repeat itself, it does rhyme. The macroeconomic backdrop is different. Obviously, there are different things going on in the world than there were a year ago. That's always going to be a massive factor. But it's important to understand that moves like this are possible. Do I think that we're going to reclaim levels of greed? I don't. And I don't think it would be rational for us to reclaim levels of greed. We're currently sitting at a 29, just edging on the side of extreme fear, or on the edges of extreme fear. And I don't think, like everything in life, you should not be at one polar end of the spectrum. Of any spectrum, it's typically not healthy to be at the polar ends. Okay? So, extreme greed, times can be fun, the market can be ripping, but it's important to understand that the party doesn't go on forever. Okay? And if you've been around in this game for a meaningful amount of time, then you would know that to be true. But we are in deep levels of fear. I don't think fear is necessarily warranted. There are a lot of geopolitical issues going on right now. But as far as pricing things in, and if you guys happen to watch my recent video about how war has historically impacted the stock markets, typically the markets just brush off war, especially if they're overseas. So I don't think extreme fear is warranted right now. I don't think greed is warranted either. But I do think that we will reach levels of neutrality. And, heading into the holiday season, November historically being the strongest month for the markets, I do think that it's very possible that we do step foot into greed territory, definitely at some point by Christmas time. I can say that with a decent level of confidence. Okay? So that's the Fear and Greed Index, you guys. Keep it on this for yourself. Again, we reference it a lot in the newsletter. And as we said earlier, make sure this is just one of the tools. To each their own. If you want to trade solely off this, it's your choice as always. But it's important to have a repertoire or a solid arsenal of these indicators and analytical tools at your disposal to make the best decisions you can. And that's really what being an investor is about. We'll call it there, you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Have you heard of the Fear and Greed Index before? Have you tracked it? Or if this is the first time you're hearing about it, because if so, that's great. That was kind of the point of this video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you in the comments downstairs. Until next time, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace. And for the purposes of my shorts editor, if you want to catch the full version of this video, check out my YouTube channel, Royce Jacob. Doses.